Thanks, Bob. A warm welcome to everyone, and thanks for taking time out of your day to get a little preview on FireXF and Epson and the combination there. So myself, Jeremy Tesh, and Lori Lawrence, we're a team of two who work in the U.S. and Canada with IT supplies and other dealers that sell Epson and our product, FireXF. So my goal today is to just give you a little tour of what FireXF is and how it can benefit your business, and also how it can complement Epson's printer portfolio, specifically the solvent series of printers, the S series that David was speaking about later in the call today. So with that, we can dive right in. Let me just see if I can forward my slide here. There we are. So three main things I want to go over today. Basically, what is FireXF and what it can do, how it can help. So if you're going to make the commitment to add another piece of software in your workflow, what can it do for you and what are the real benefits? And then that's going to be a few slides. We'll try and get through them fairly quickly, but I also like to do a live demo so you can get a feel for what the software looks like and how the bits and pieces fit together and what it might look like in your business and complement your workflow. So we'll do that and then follow up with a specific section on color and how this can work to benefit printing through the Epson S series of printers. Recently, in the spring here, we have a lot of updates on the color side for Fiery. We've updated our profile engine and I offered a new rendering intent. So for those of you that may have heard of or even are using FireXF, there's a lot of improvements as of recently, and I just kind of wanted to cover those, how they benefit things, and then we can speak to how that can work to give you a competitive advantage. So what is FireXF? So FireXF is a digital front end on the wide format side. So we have a lot of digital front ends in the Fiery category. We're speaking about the one exclusively for wide format inkjet. This is also called, normally in this market, called a RIP. So this drives nearly the entire Epson portfolio, including legacy and current devices, and then 800 printers in total. So it can really encompass your entire print room and pretty much any wide format or really any category of printer is likely covered under the Fiery banner in some way. Once you start doing significant output, including multiple customer jobs on a single substrate, some of the layout tools you'll see today, you may want to start doing some automation in terms of the finishing side of things. We integrate with 1,200 different cutting devices in any of the layout functions you'll see today. And then, of course, we offer a Mac and PC experience. So FireXF is a client-server application where the client is where all the activity occurs, and that's actually what you'll see majority of today is the client side. That runs on both the latest versions of Mac OS and PC. The server piece, the clients are all speaking to, that runs on a PC. That's what's actually streaming the data to, ripping the data and streaming it to the printer. So, and just a note about the client, actually we'll talk about that in a moment. As far as the product itself, for this market, the product is actually called FireXF. It's sold as software only, and it's hosted on hardware that you provide. So that would mean a PC to host the server, and then any of any other computer in your network, whether it's Mac or PC, can have that full interface as long as it can see that server on the network. And we also have a companion product, and this really doesn't apply to the series of printers, just kind of show you the breadth of our product. When we take FireXF and we put it on our own hardware, it's really for the wide and super wide and high-speed inkjet market. We offer this in several different flavors of our own hardware. What can it offer you? So if you buy FireXF and incorporate it in your workflow, these are some things you can benefit from. So we're really proud of the color technology in FireXF. It's all developed in-house at EFI. We don't license it from anywhere else. And it can really give you the best opportunity for not only the best color, but consistency, and make sure it's reliable and dependable for you. So it doesn't vary over time. Secondly would be the workflow. So this is a word that's out there a lot, but basically it means organization. So if you're going to be printing multiple jobs, mixing jobs together, doing some layout, maybe you invest in a second printer, or if you have more than one user, as soon as you have any kind of that situation, you can really benefit from just standardizing your process. And FireXF allows you to establish that workflow in your business. So you can build a limited amount of pathways through the system. So maybe you want to step and repeat a job 5 times and add crop marks and set certain color management. Instead of having to remember those 5 steps over and over again, you can have a central location, and anybody can interact through a client and get that work done out the door in a very organized way. The third would be layout. This is really a secondary feature rather than a top level concept, but layout's so important in the wide format space. If you have those expensive substrates, maybe you get some canvas from IT Supplies and you really want to optimize the space, the utilization of that substrate. Layout, we have all kinds of easy layout tools that are really important in the wide format space. I think Fiery has some of the best visual, easy to use layout tools out there. And then unification. So I mentioned that Fiery has placements in pretty much all print technology areas. So we're talking today about inkjet. We also cover cut sheet toner. So like a Xerox or iGen, that market is covered by Fiery. And then maybe high-speed inkjet, single pass. That maybe even UV and so on. All of those technology areas can be driven by a Fiery server. And those Fiery servers can all be joined by this client called Fiery Command Workstation. So that gives you the ability under one console to control everything. So that client actually that I keep speaking about is called Fiery Command Workstation. And recently we adopted that on the wide format side because it has 250,000 installations in the field and 20 years of development. So this is a huge platform beyond the wide format space. And we've really latched onto it, and it can offer you that unification. So it basically looks like this. So if you have Fiery Command Workstation, which would be the client, this is a free download, can be Mac or PC, put anywhere in your organization, whether it's in pre-press, or if it's management, just monitoring jobs, or if it's the printer operator right in front of the printer, this can be put anywhere. Once you have this installed, you can then join Fiery servers to it, up to 10. And when you have that situation, you can drive this vast array of technology from this one console. So whether it's a toner cut sheet device over here on the left, a UV device, high-speed single pass, Nozomi, textile, or Epson aqueous solvents, fabric printing, direct-to-fabric, dye sublimation, that all can be controlled by a Fiery server joined by Command Workstation. So it really gives you that unification. So I'll just make a pause here, and then we're going to exit the slides here, and I'm going to head over to Fiery and give you kind of a quick tour of how this looks. So here we are in Fiery Command Workstation 6.5. This is our client. This is the free download piece, and this is really where you do all the work. This is the home screen, and what you see here is a single Fiery server mounted to the system. You can mount multiples here of any of those technology types. So each server on the wide format side can drive typically 1 to 4 inkjet printers, but you can join more than that. If you outgrow that and need to establish more processing power for another group of printers, you just simply add another server. And of course, they can all be joined here on this left side to offer that unification. Over here on the right is a glimpse of just the activity level for those connected devices. So you can kind of get some production metrics of what's happening in your print shop for any server and any of its connected devices. So drilling down more closely, on the left, if I select the job center, now we see that same server and any other associated servers we might have on this blue bar area here, except now we see the associated printers and those jobs under each printer. So if I expand this, we can now see I have multiple servers here associated with this one single server. There's no hard limit to how many printers you add to a server. It's really how robust your server is, your server hardware is to keep those printers happy. So here I have printers, jobs already inside the queue for the Epson S8600. And let's just demo adding additionals. I'm going to switch to the job list view, and we'll right click and do an import. Grab this job here. And this is just one way of bringing jobs in via the client. You can bring in jobs via hot folder and virtual printers and so on. Once I have this import dialog, I can redirect to any of the connected printers very easily. And I'm just going to commit to the Epson printer here. And then whether we choose to or not, we're applying a workflow in a media. And this allows me to set up basically all the job settings and color management for that workflow and that substrate. But I can redirect that as well. So maybe I want to go photo fine art on a canvas substrate. I can easily do that when I import. Then we have the ability to do a very hands-on workflow where we want to do a lot of hands-on job prep to make sure this layout looks correct before I commit to printing it. Or if I know in this photo fine art workflow, and we'll see when we create a workflow here in a moment, you can automate. So this workflow is basically a container that can set up everything. So if I had a workflow that I was using over and over again, we could simply go direct to a print and everything would just happen, go to the printer, and off we go. There's a process in hold, which is sort of an intermediate step, which will rip the file but not yet release to the printer. For this example, I'm just going to go to a hold state so we can kind of work with this job. So the job has now come in on the bottom. Get a small preview. Now here's where I can release this job. I can combine this job with others by creating a nest. Or let's just take this job by itself for now, and we can offer additional settings. So I'm going to select Edit. And that opens up this second piece of FireXF, which is called the Job Editor. The Job Editor is a full screen preview of what that's going to look like. So in this case, we have 44-inch substrate loaded, and we can see that over here on the right. Here's my job and what it will look like. And then I have Property panel on the left, organized in tabs, layout, finishing, color management, printer settings, and verification. So here we have the ability to, these settings were all inherited by that workflow, but here we can work, this is where I said we can do a little bit more hands-on job prep. So in this tool, we maybe scale this down, save that, we'll add a step and repeat action to, maybe we have an order for 6 copies of this, and we'll quickly apply that. That looks pretty good. And then we can add, maybe we're going to cut this out manually, so we'll add some crop marks. And you can see we'll update the layout to accommodate the crop marks. And then you see that forced that into a different column arrangement. Maybe we'll center that, and that looks pretty good. Any of these settings I just did, I can capture as a preset, or in total, maybe we'll go over here into the color management and do another change. We'll set this up as sRGB instead, because we know they didn't necessarily set this up in Photoshop. There we go. Okay, so now this job is prepared, ready to go. I can, if I'm happy the way this is, in its current state, I can go to it direct to a print, or I can come back here and it is ready to go in my job queue. Maybe I want to print this later and go on to the next job to manipulate. The other thing you can do to start to automate from the job editing process, you can save this as a workflow. So workflow is just a container of all those settings that I just applied to this job. So we can call this 6up at sRGB and save that. So I can send this job on its way now, and it will begin processing over here. Now, if I want to do this again, instead of doing those 5 clicks over and over again, I can go ahead and bring in my next job, same printer, except now I have this 6up sRGB that I can apply. So I originated very easily a new workflow that can start to automate things. So I'm just going to bring this into a hold condition. And here it comes. We can create a quick preview and see now with a different file, I've got a 6-up condition. In fact, this job editor, I just leave open in the background. And if I double click this new job, I can look at it more closely. And here we see we have additional row. Maybe we go back here and do a fill last row, and off we go. And very quickly, I can do a layout. Just one more layout function. I can grab multiple jobs and do a nest. This is a great way of grouping jobs together with different settings, but optimizing space. So if I double click this job, you can see it both rotated and spatially placed these jobs to allow for an optimized use of your substrate. So great function. And it's dynamic. So if I go to change a substrate size from 44-inch to a 36-inch, instead of having to go lay this out in my application in prepress, I can very quickly update this for this new substrate size. And off we go. So a bunch of layout settings there. So endless amounts of things I could show you in here. Just to kind of round out the bits and pieces. So back into the job queue area of the main command workstation window, if I right click the server that we've been working with, we can go to Server Manager. Server Manager is basically anything global to the RIP. And here we have all the RIP core settings and the printer definitions. And you can see the S8600 I have defined here, its associated substrates or media, and the workflow. And if I click the 6-up sRGB, this is a workflow that I created over in the job editor. We can also create workflows here. So if I like this workflow, I can duplicate it and maybe rename this and just call it nesting very quickly. And this is going to have the same exact settings as the 6-up, including color management, but maybe here I want to do the nest instead of step and repeat. And there we go. So now that nesting function I did manually can happen automatically. So this can really speed up and standardize your workflow and make sure the color is always the same, set the same as well. Let's check on time here. Okay, so far we've seen command workstation, the job queue, the ability to edit a job more in a visual way on the job editor, and then the global settings of Server Manager. Those three things work together on a day-to-day basis to get jobs out the door. It can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. Some organizations have just a single workflow and do everything manually. Some have maybe 50 workflows that do different things. Before we exit this part of the software demo, I just wanted to show a couple of color features. So, like I said, all the color technology at EFI is developed in-house. Those are implemented or deployed in certain applications associated with the RIP. So if you look on the toolbar here, we have 3 color applications. One being color tools. If I click that, this is basically the Swiss Army knife of color applications. This establishes the base color of the RIP through the process of calibrating your printer, putting it in an optimum state, creating a media profile, capturing that color inside an ICC profile of that calibrated printer to make sure it's accurate, and then maybe doing some optimization to improve the accuracy even further. And then there's a bunch of other things you can do. You can profile your monitor and edit profiles and so on. That's color tools. The second tool would be color editor. Color editor is basically spot colors or brand colors. Inside here, we have roughly 35,000 licensed Pantone, DIC, Toyo, all kinds of color libraries that will make sure that these important brand colors are matched accurately. So we do this through all measurement-based color management, but there's also tools here to tweak things visually to make things better. It's sometimes on a visual side, tons of tools inside here to manage brand color. Finally, color verifier, or now the new Fiery Verify. This application is recently updated. This allows us to do, through a very quick measurement of maybe 1 or 2 rows of patches of color, measure it. And this is where we can start, not only make sure your color is optimum and the best it can be, but very consistent. So if you're doing a repeat of jobs, or if you just want to make sure color is consistent over time, this very quickly can give you a pass-fail. Quality control your color. So am I doing the same thing on day 60 that I did on day 1 after I perfected my color inside my rip? This makes sure that, you know, if you get a repeat job or you have to meet a standard, you can prove to yourself or to external customers that you are meeting that color day in and day out. And we basically do that by comparing a reference, maybe a color profile, to a measured sample that very quickly give you that information. So that's a quick tour of the application Fiery. So I think this is one of the more easier to use and clean interfaces for a professional RIP solution. Just kind of circling back to the last bit of slides here to round out my time. I just wanted to speak about some of the new exciting color technology that we're developing inside Fiery. So this is all under the kind of name of called Fiery Edge. So the technology that takes the measured data from the printer, if you want to really get good color, you're going to measure a control strip, build an ICC profile. So let's say you have a canvas substrate and you want to make sure you're doing the best prints possible on that canvas. You're going to calibrate the printer on that canvas, and then you're going to profile it, describe that printer using that canvas, and then there's going to be an engine that's going to create that ICC profile. So every job you send through the RIP, whether it's an RGB file, a CMYK file, whatever, all your customer work is going to be reproduced accurately. Fiery Edge is the new engine from EFI that's building that ICC profile for that canvas substrate. And inside here, this is basically a completely new engine, just released this spring. And because there's a lot of technology that goes into building this and processing this data and building that accurate profile, there's a lot of special sauce or special things you can put inside this software. And there's a lot of EFI exclusive things in Fiery Edge, and we're going to talk about those real quick. All of this can be had whether you just go ahead and build a profile and don't tweak any settings. The out-of-the-box improvements are significant here, or everything I'm about to show you in terms of benefits, you can fine-tune through levers and sliders and so on if you really want to dig in and do that. These are the benefits, and these are mostly on the print quality side here in this list. So we're going to give you smoother transitions and gradients, and I'll show you what that looks like. So basically, this is going to give you that ideal, less choppy look. Deeper blacks and enhanced shadow detail. So we can increase the dynamic range. There's a lot of technology going into the black point portion of the shadow area of the printer gamut to find that darkest black, and then allow you to tailor that, possibly skew it in one direction or another to improve that shadow area. And do that while maintaining detail. And then finally, the way we handle the black within the profile, we can offer that enhanced clarity and depth that it's hard to describe, but if you look at a print, it kind of just looks like a 3D boost of clarity. And then finally, we have this intelligent color boost called Fiery Intensify we'll speak about real quick. All of this print quality improvements you get, you also maintain color accuracy. We actually improved it. So sometimes when you increase smoothness in a profile, you jeopardize the accuracy. We've been able to keep both of these working together. In fact, if you create a profile out of the box with the new Fiery Edge compared to our old profile engine or a competitor, the accuracy, if you print a Pantone color and measure it, the delta E number on that, or the accuracy of that printed color, is much better out of the box. In fact, it's so good that you may not have to do our optimization closed loop improvement method. The optimization sometimes is not needed. Just a few examples. So I've talked kind of about this kind of abstract color engine, but what does it really look like? Here's, without having print samples, we can all share, we're in a virtual environment. I can show you just a few screenshots or some examples. So when I say smoother color blends, I'm speaking of transitions between colors. So if there's anything you can print, and you can do this your own test, is take a what's called a Granger rainbow, which is basically a spectrum left to right of primary and secondary colors. And then from the bottom to top, it's scaling 100% black to no black. And that's basically throwing all these colors together in a transition environment. And if your profile engine is doing a good job or not such a good job, you can really just see that in a Granger rainbow. And here you can see that the item below is a standard profile engine. You can see some harsh breaks here, and this is really hard for a profile engine to get right. And there's nothing better to see what's going on inside the profile than printing this. Fiery Edge, if you print this a Granger rainbow, you'll see huge amounts of smoothness compared to competitive engines. Here's another full screen example. Here's a standard engine compared to Fiery Edge, just much smoother. So why does that all matter? Basically, you take an image like this, where you have a nice, beautiful picture of landscape with the sky. You can see some stair stepping, maybe not in this presentation, but you can imagine in this area, there are distinct breaks in color when you have a profile engine that's not smooth. Here in Fiery Edge, we can really smooth that out, especially an Epson printer that's very good at reproducing color in a very smooth way. If your profile engine isn't doing a good job of smoothing this, the accuracy of an Epson printer will really allow that to display. So the accuracy of the smoothness really matters. In terms of shadow detail, so especially on a gloss substrate on an Epson S series, you can get super deep blacks, but that's not very useful if you're going to plug up all that area with extra ink. So in a RIP, you can make sure not only that you calibrated correctly and make sure that you're using ink intelligently and not over inking, but the profile engine Fiery Edge can preserve that detail, where in this darker area of her hair, it may be getting more of a solid color, all the detail goes away. In Fiery Edge, we're doing a much better job in the shadow part of the gamut of preserving that detail. Not just the detail, but the blacks are certainly better. There's huge amount of control over the black, but out of the box, you're just going to get much darker, deeper blacks, which enhances that dynamic range and improves that kind of pop and look and feel. And then finally, just the way we use black clarity, you can't really see it here, but you get that 3D look and feel the way we're using black within the profile. Finally, just to round out the fiery portion of the presentation is Fire Intensify. So as part of the Fiery Edge engine, you get all the benefits I talked about. There's this one kind of separate category called Fire Intensify. And basically, when you look at an ICC profile, you have different tables, and you call on those tables inside the software through a drop-down option. One of those options is called the saturation rendering intent. And most people, this is completely disregarded and not used because it basically takes the color saturation slider and runs it up to 11. And while that can give you a little bit more color, it's basically like, it overcooks the color. It turns it up on every color, and it's essentially unusable, not used, really has any application anywhere in graphic arts because it looks terrible. So instead of just leaving that there to be ignored, we took over the saturation rendering intent when we build a profile, and we have this Fire Intensify version. So completely re-engineered that rendering intent. And what does it offer? So basically, we're not physically expanding the gamut of the printer. So if the S series has a very large gamut, we're calibrating and profiling that. We're not physically taking it further, but we're reorientating the color within inside that gamut. So when you look at a print, you're like, wow, that really looks more colorful, it looks better. Punch, contrast, and definition is also increased. And then that detail is dialed in even further. We do all of this increase in print quality and color by, we're also preserving memory color. So what's a memory color? We're basically have an algorithm that looks into the profile to look for important colors that we're all used to seeing, like skin tones and gray balance. And we're sampling lab colors for all kinds of skin tones and those gray balances and extracting them from the algorithm. So why is this important? Because you can get all this benefit of additional color without over cranking or destroying the rest of the image. And that can really give you a, so here's a great example where we're increasing the color, but we're not making this particular image look like she has a sunburn, or the steps that she's sitting on are casted magenta. And this really gives you a competitive advantage in terms of you can sneak in that additional color and make the customer wow without making it look artificial or ruining the rest of the image. So I think that combined with the Epson S series can give you that boost if you're printing on canvas. Maybe you're going for photo fine art and can really give you that edge in color. Or maybe you're using in a proofing scenario. So we can give you that contrast color finite control. Maybe you're doing some package proofing on some foil substrate. We've done that in the past with the S series. Really pretty much whichever direction you want to go. I think Fiery can really pull out the best and standardize and make sure everything's consistent when you're working with the S series printer. So I'll pause there. I know I'll turn it over to David to speak about the printer side of things, and then I'll be, of course, around for questions at the end. Let me see if I can send this your way.
If you have any issues, I can help out.
Okay. David, I just sent this your way.
All right, let me go over to my screen. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Looks good.
All right, perfect. All right, I'm going to be talking about the SureColor S8600, and today's agenda is going to be an introduction. We'll go over some of the features of the S8600, some of the different applications that you could do together with the EFI Fiery Rip and the Epson S8600, some of the Epson advantages, and then we'll go over some questions and answers with EFI and Epson together, and IT supplies, of course. So introduction, what I really want to talk about is the 3 key components to having a successful printing operation. You just heard an amazing presentation by EFI about how powerful their software is and how they can control the color, the workflow, and automate a lot of the different things. And they've really taken it a next step past what normal people do or normal companies do and really perfected this. Of course, the important part is also the printer. You can have a powerful software, but if the printer can only do so much, you're only going to get the best results that the printer can actually do. So the printer is a huge important piece. And then the different medias and applications. IT Supplies has a huge range of different medias. And depending on what application you want to do, they have some of the best medias out there. So SureColor S8600 and S8600L. So recently, or one of the latest launches that we have done is the S8600L, which is virtually the same printer as the S8600, except it's going to have the bulk ink system packs, which is 1.5 liter ink packs. Now you're going to see again where they're talking a lot about, EFI was talking a lot about the different powerful engines that they have to control colors. We've added extra colors out here. So we're going to be doing our Seam YK, light cyan, light magenta, light black for that great grays and skin tone colors that could be added in black and white images, orange, red, and then the option between white and silver. One thing I like to talk about is with white and silver. Now, let's say you have a job that is going to require white, and you have that in there, and then you get this one random job that, hey, I need silver. Instead of having to call in a technician to come in and replace this, or you could actually do this yourself. It takes about 20 minutes. You follow an on the step screen. information there that tells you how to flush it out. And you put in your cartridge or your bulk ink pack, and you can switch over to your silver to print metallics out. Also, another great feature is if you're not using white or silver and your jobs are only consisting of the colors, you can actually have a cleaning pack in there and not have to worry about wasting any ink or while doing any of the cleanings. So those are our two printers there, the S8600 and S8600L that we're featuring. So what I wanted to talk about also is that with all those colors added, we're able to, we're best in class in all the colors, the 98.2% of the Pantone coverage. The EFI reps were talking about actually how to get some of these brand colors and how to get some of this and how it's controlled, and they licensed a lot of the Pantone colors into their software. So with us adding these additional colors with the red and orange, we're really able to hit that 98.2% of the Pantone color. When you're doing some applications like stickers, decals, wall coverings that need lamination, we're actually 75% faster. So you could do same day lamination. We've done a third-party testing with Avery Dennison, where they've actually were able to collect and see what the outgassing process is and actually how long we're able to do that. We developed some new ink that gives us the advantage there to laminate 75% faster. And then also another thing that separates us from the competition is our printhead technology. So our precision core micro piezo TFP printheads are heat-free technology, and it really gives you an accurate dot placement. So a 4.2 picoliter size compared to some other thermal printhead technologies that are typically around 12 picoliters, which means it's a bigger dot. Now having that small dot size, not only does it give you a better quality image and a better skin tone and great placement, but it actually is going to help you save ink. So EFI kind of talked about that you can actually save ink because you're not having to put so much down, and if you have a strong software like the EFI Fiery Rips, it can actually help control that better. And then of course color consistency. So again, EFI was talking about that. If you want to have a job the same day, from day 1 to day 60, you want to see how consistent you can be. And of course, with the right software and the right ink and printer, you're able to have that consistency. So some of the advantages here, I just listed out a couple of things that separate us as advanced printhead technologies. So we have, we're the #1 in patents for printhead technology. We have extreme image quality with that small dot placement. Our inks are developed by Epson. So we develop the printheads and we develop the ink, so we make sure that's really reliable. Low cost of ownership. We have the solution for all the printing needs, whether you're printing decals or you're printing fine art reproductions or proofing. Easy media setups and definitely simple maintenance. So let's talk a little bit about applications. So one of the things that we talked about was packaging proofing. Now, because the S80 has that red and orange, it kind of gives us that opportunity to jump into different things that typically solvent printers don't usually do. When you think of a solvent printer, you think of a banner or a decal sticker, which are definitely applications that the S80 can do. But with that 98.2% of the Pantone coverage, you're able to hit brand colors, which is very important when you're doing packaging proofing. So you can see on the image to the right of it, JetComp has a lot of different materials. I know that there is a lot of different materials out there that you can get for package proofing that you could do here. Another thing, it's a heat-free printhead technology. So if you have any medias that are heat sensitive that typically you can't print on with other different systems, you can do it with an S80. And then the precision dot placement is going to give you the best in-class quality images. So another applications, banners and posters, that's, we have the class leading production speeds. So when you're going apples to apples with different competitors out there, we definitely have the class leading production speeds, great high gloss, high image qualities, unintended roll-to-roll printing, and then we have an automatic maintenance. One thing that's, again, unique to these 10 colors and the 98.2% of the Pantone coverage is doing canvas and fine art reproduction. So when you have a powerful rip like the Fiery EFI rip, you're able to hit those certain colors that you really need to and get the great quality images. Specialty graphics. So when you do have your white ink into the S80, you're going to get a really opaque white, and I'm pretty sure that the EFI Fire rips can really help with that too, to make sure that you're putting the right amount of ink and getting the real good opaque image. You're gonna have really vibrant reds, and the metallic silvers are really amazing. If you guys have not seen the metallic silvers, I highly recommend talking with IT Supplies and trying to get a sample of that, or seeing that virtually done. Different applications again is wall coverings. So one thing that we like to talk about too is we have a full room Green Guard Gold certification, which means you can actually cover a whole room with a printed graphic and it still meets the required amount of VOCs in the air to be low enough to get that full Green Guard Gold certification, which is similar to some of the other printing technologies like latex. We're gonna have that same day lamination and then accurate sizing and consistent color. Now the accurate sizing is important since it's a heat-free technology. We do have heaters to help some of the drying process in the print, but it's not a massive amount of heat like you would in some different technologies. The vehicle wraps, something very popular. You want to get that vibrant color, you want to get that nice saturation, but you want to do it right. Again, I want to talk about that EFI rip that was talking about being able to get the correct bright colors, but without having to really oversaturate and waste a lot of ink when you don't need to. You're gonna have that same day lamination. And then we also do have the 3M MCS ink warranties as well. And then when you go into stickers and magnets or different things that require small text, because of that small dot, you're able to really do those really small text. And another great feature of different applications, you can actually print direct to the magnet because of how our system is made. The actual platen part is made from different metals that are not going to stick to the magnet. So I really like to talk about the Epson advantage and what really separates Epson, and having the right technologies into a printer is what's really going to separate printers from different other manufacturers. So the Precision Core TFP printhead, I mentioned it a couple of times in the presentation, and it really is one of the things that separates us from the competition. There are other printer manufacturers out there that do use Epson printheads, but it was definitely older technology. Since then, we've came out with multiple generations of printheads that have really tried to separate us apart. If you remember Epson way back in the day, it really started off in the photography world, and being able to make a printhead that's going to give photographic images was a huge challenge, and we're able to create some of the best printheads out in the market now. So what we did was we grabbed that printhead and we put that across all of our lines of printers, whether it's dye sublimation, solvent printing, the photo proofing printing. It has that same type of technology that we've created. So it's going to give you that variable droplet technology, a consistent color, and extremely high accuracy. Again, I talked a little bit about this on the application for the wall covering, but we're going to have that full room Green Guard Gold certification, so it's equal to some of the competitor inks. We have that newly developed red ink technology. So that red solvent ink, it improves the gamut extremely, and it gives you the ability to hit that 98.2% of the Pantone coverage. And then superior printhead reliability. Since we're making the printheads again and we're making the ink, we're going to make sure that the ink's going to be the best quality, and it's going to be reliable for that printhead, so you could have a longer lasting printhead and printer. Same day lamination, 75% faster, again with that third-party testing done by Avery International, and they were able to actually test it in different environments. So being in California, where I'm out of, is going to be different than being out in Florida, where humidity is different, or in New Orleans, or in Louisiana, where humidity is different. So they took the most extreme temperatures and extreme environments, and actually was still able to do the lamination after 6 hours. Of course, to maintain the printer, we want you to be worried about making money, about figuring out what the next application is, and we want you to worry less about what you have to do to the printer. So we have an automatic maintenance system where it has a wiper that will actually wipe the print head on the bottom and have you do less manual maintenance than typically before. I also have filters into the printer that collects any kind of dust or anything that will potentially ruin a print that you'd have to cause for a reprint or anything like that. And I think you guys heard me say it probably about 5 times now, but 98.2% of the Pantone coverage, it's huge. A lot of the times I really liked the EFI presentation where it shows the images of without the rip and with the rip, and it really shows a huge difference, and it's that SD versus HD comparison. Now, before, the market really didn't have a standard of how to classify a printer being better. We were just used to certain colors. The CMYK was the typical normal. As the market tends to mature and we start to learn more about different colors and how to reproduce things and how to hit brand colors, we were able to put a number to this, and being able to hit 98.2% of the Pantone coverage was a huge advantage for us at Epson. And then, of course, we have something that entices everybody. Everybody loves points, whether it's flyer miles or hotel points or car rental points. So we have that same concept. We put this to every bag of ink or every cartridge of ink or even the media, Epson media. And every time you purchase some ink, you scratch off the little scratcher and you get a rewards there for 50 points. You register, you put those rewards points, and it actually can put you towards an extended service plan and get you up to 5 years of total coverage. And let's say you don't have all the points, it can actually give you a discount into an extended service plan as well. So look into that, talk to IT supplies about that. It's a great advantage for customers. And that was pretty much it. I went through it kind of quick. Let me look how I'm doing on time here. We have a little bit of time here for questions and answers. Definitely having the EFI RIP and Epson together will give you a solution that will definitely make you stand apart from your competitors.
Thanks so much for watching this. If you would like to see more of these videos, please go to our YouTube channel.